You've met her. The woman who made you feel more alive than you've ever felt before. She was magnetic, powerful, intoxicating, a force of nature that awakened something primal in you. In her presence, you felt like you could conquer the world, but somewhere along the way, something shifted. The man who once stood tall began to bow. The leader became the follower. The strong became weak. And before you knew it, you were emotionally enslaved to a woman who now controlled your every mood, your every decision, your very sense of self. You're about to discover the most dangerous feminine archetype that Carl Jung warned about, the only one with the power to turn even the strongest, most successful men into emotional slaves. This isn't about toxic women or manipulation tactics. This is about an ancient psychological pattern that's been destroying powerful men since the beginning of time, and why you're particularly vulnerable to it. The pain of this transformation is unlike anything else you've experienced. You watch yourself become someone you don't recognize, needy, anxious, constantly seeking her approval, terrified of her displeasure. You know this isn't who you are, yet you can't break free. The confusion is maddening. How did you go from being her equal to being her servant? Why does her mood dictate your entire day? When did you lose yourself so completely? Today, you'll finally understand the archetypal force that's holding you captive, why strong men are especially susceptible to it, and most importantly, how to break free from its psychological grip before it drains you of everything that once made you powerful. To understand how a strong man becomes enslaved, you need to understand what Jung called the Great Mother archetype, one of the most powerful forces in the human psyche. This archetype exists in two forms, the nurturer and the devourer. Both live within the same archetypal pattern, and both can manifest through the same woman, sometimes even in the same relationship. The nurturer is what you first encounter. She's warm, accepting, nurturing in ways that touch something deep and primal within you. She makes you feel safe, understood, held in a way you haven't felt since you were a child. And that's precisely the key to understanding this whole dynamic. The Great Mother archetype connects directly to your earliest experiences of being cared for, protected, and unconditionally loved. But here's what makes you vulnerable. If you carry what Jung called an infantilized anima, an immature relationship with your own inner feminine, you don't just appreciate nurturing, you desperately crave it. You're not looking for a partner, you're unconsciously seeking a mother. Not literally, but symbolically. You want someone to take care of your emotional needs, to make you feel whole, to save you from the harsh realities of life. This infantilized anima develops when a man hasn't fully psychologically separated from the mother archetype. Maybe your actual mother was overly protective, never letting you fully individuate. Maybe she was absent or cold, leaving you with an unmet hunger for maternal care. Maybe she was inconsistent, creating an anxious need to constantly secure maternal love. Whatever the cause, you enter adulthood still seeking the Great Mother outside yourself. When you meet a woman who activates this archetype, who has that nurturing quality, that maternal warmth, that ability to make you feel held and understood, your infantilized anima recognizes her immediately. This is why the attraction feels so overwhelming, so beyond rational control. You're not just attracted to her as a woman, you're attracted to her as the mother you've been seeking your entire life. At first, it feels like paradise. She nurtures you in ways that fill that ancient emptiness. She understands your moods, anticipates your needs, creates a cocoon of care around you. You feel more relaxed than you have in years. The constant tension of having to be strong, to perform, to achieve, finally melts away in her presence. You can just be, and she'll take care of everything else. But this is where the shadow side of the Great Mother begins to emerge. The same archetype that nurtures also devours. The same force that gives life also consumes it. And when you've made yourself dependent on her nurturing, you've also made yourself vulnerable to her devouring. The devourer doesn't announce herself with fangs and claws. She emerges slowly, naturally, almost invisibly. It starts with small things. You begin checking with her before making decisions. Not because she demands it, but because you've become so accustomed to her input, her approval, her emotional temperature. You start modifying your behavior to maintain her nurturing flow, avoiding things that upset her, doing more of what pleases her. Your world begins to shrink. Friends you used to see regularly somehow fall away, not because she explicitly forbade them, but because maintaining her emotional equilibrium became your priority. Hobbies and interests that don't include her gradually disappear. Your independent goals and ambitions start to feel less important than keeping the relationship stable. Here's the insidious part. She's not necessarily doing this consciously. The devouring mother archetype operates through both people in the dynamic. Your infantilized anima seeks to be consumed just as much as her shadow seeks to consume. You're both playing out an ancient psychological dance where the child gives up autonomy in exchange for care, and the mother gains purpose through the child's dependence. You find yourself constantly monitoring her emotional state because it directly determines yours. When she's happy, you're happy. When she's upset, your whole world darkens. You've literally given her the keys to your emotional kingdom. She doesn't even have to do anything dramatic, just a shift in her mood, a subtle withdrawal of warmth, and you're scrambling to fix whatever went wrong. The strong man becomes weak because he's operating from his child self rather than his adult self. All that strength you built in the world, your career success, your physical power, your leadership abilities, none of it matters when you're psychologically reduced to a child seeking mother's approval. In fact, your worldly strength makes the contrast even more painful. You can command respect in the boardroom but turn into an anxious child when she's distant. This is what Jung meant when he warned about the danger of projection. You're not relating to her as she actually is. You're relating to her as the great mother archetype your psyche desperately needs. Every interaction is filtered through this projection. Her care isn't just care, it's salvation. Her criticism isn't just criticism, it's abandonment. Her love isn't just love, it's your very right to exist. The dependency deepens because it feeds something so fundamental. Unlike other forms of attraction or attachment, the pull toward the great mother touches your survival instincts. As an infant, mother literally meant survival. That programming doesn't just disappear because you're now an adult. When your infantilized anima finds someone who activates the great mother archetype, those survival instincts kick in, making the bond feel like life or death. Now we reach the most devastating truth about your enslavement. The strong man becomes weak, not because she overpowers him, but because he willingly surrenders his power. The chains that bind you aren't made of her control, they're made of your own desperate need to remain a psychological child. The great mother devourer doesn't need to imprison you, because you imprison yourself in exchange for the illusion of eternal nurturing. Think about how this actually plays out. She becomes the center of your life, not through force, but through your own psychological gravity. You orbit around her moods, her needs, her desires, not because she demands it, but because you've made her the sun in your emotional solar system. Without her warmth, you feel cold. Without her light, you're in darkness. You've literally given her the power to determine whether you feel alive or dead inside. The promise of absolute love and mutual dependence is the honey that traps you. She offers something your infantilized anima has been seeking forever: complete emotional safety, unconditional acceptance, a return to the womb where all needs are met without effort. But this promise is a lie. Not because she's lying, but because what you're seeking is impossible. No adult can provide another adult with a mother's love because mother's love belongs to childhood, not partnership. When you finally wake up to what's happened, the realization is shattering. You've lost your identity not to her, but to your own regression. The man you once were had with his own goals and his own center, his own source of power, has been dissolved into this symbiotic merge. You don't even know who you are outside of this relationship because you've allowed your adult self to be consumed by your child self's needs. The most painful recognition is that she didn't do this to you. You did this to yourself. Your strength wasn't stolen, you gave it away. Your independence wasn't destroyed, you abandoned it. Your identity wasn't erased. You willingly dissolved it in the hope of finding that perfect maternal care you've been seeking since childhood. This is why escape feels impossible. You're not trying to escape from her. You're trying to escape from your own deepest psychological needs. Every time you think about leaving, Your infantilized anima screams in terror, "But who will take care of me? Who will make me feel safe? Who will love me unconditionally?" The adult part of you might know the relationship is destroying you, but the child part would rather be destroyed than abandoned. You now face the most important choice of your psychological life: remain a slave to the great mother archetype, or finally grow up and claim your masculine autonomy. This isn't about leaving her or staying with her. It's about fundamentally changing your relationship to your own needs, your own inner feminine, your own psychological maturity. The first step is the hardest, recognizing that no woman can be your mother. The maternal care you're seeking from her is something that belonged to a specific time in your life that has passed. You cannot go back to the womb. You cannot be an infant again. And more importantly, trying to do so is killing the man you're meant to be. True strength for a man comes when he realizes he must become his own nurturing parent. The great mother you're seeking outside yourself needs to be internalized, integrated into your own psyche. This means learning to comfort yourself when you're in pain, to validate yourself when you need encouragement, to hold space for your own emotions without needing a woman to do it for you. This doesn't mean becoming cold or disconnected from women. It means relating to them as an adult rather than as a child. When you stop seeking a mother in your partner, you can finally see her as she actually is. A woman with her own needs, her own struggles, her own life that exists independently of your psychological projections. The process of breaking free requires you to identify every way you've made her your emotional mother. Where do you seek her permission rather than trusting your own judgment? Where do you need her validation to feel worthy? Where have you abandoned your own goals to maintain her approval? Each of these patterns needs to be consciously recognized and actively changed. You must also grieve. Breaking free from the great mother archetype means accepting that the unconditional love and total safety you're seeking doesn't exist in adult relationships. This is a profound loss that must be mourned. The fantasy of finding someone who will love you the way a mother loves an infant must die for the reality of mature love to be born. Here's what freedom actually looks like. You make decisions based on your own values, not her moods. You maintain your friendships, interests, and goals regardless of her reactions. You can be with her without needing her, love her without depending on her, care for her without losing yourself in her. Your emotional state is grounded in your own center, not determined by hers. The paradox is that when you stop needing her to be your great mother, she's freed from being your devourer. Many relationships transform completely when the man finally grows up psychologically. The woman who seemed controlling and consuming often relaxes into a more balanced partner, when she's no longer carrying the impossible weight of being someone's symbolic mother. But even if the relationship doesn't survive your psychological growth, you do. And you emerge not just as the strong man you once were, but as something more. A man who has integrated his own nurturing capacity, who carries his own emotional home within himself, who can love from fullness rather than emptiness. The real tragedy isn't that strong men become slaves to this archetype. The real tragedy is how many never break free, spending their entire lives seeking a mother in every woman they meet, never understanding why they feel so empty despite being loved, never realizing that what they're seeking can only be found within. Now I need to hear from you. Have you experienced this loss of self in a relationship? Can you identify moments when you sought maternal care from a partner? What patterns do you recognize from this video in your own life? Share your insights in the comments. Your honesty might help another man recognize his own enslavement. If this video revealed dynamics you've never understood before, hit the like button. Subscribe and ring the notification bell to continue exploring these deep Jungian patterns that control our relationships in ways we rarely comprehend. Check out our previous videos on the anima, shadow projection, and masculine individuation to get the full picture of how these archetypal forces shape your romantic life. The journey to psychological freedom isn't comfortable, but it's the only path to genuine masculine power. Remember this, the great mother archetype will always exist. Women who embody nurturing, caring, maternal qualities will always attract you. The question is whether you'll approach them as a child seeking care or as a man offering partnership, whether you'll lose yourself in their embrace or maintain yourself while embracing them. Your enslavement ends the moment you stop seeking a mother and start being your own parent. The chains break when you realize they were made of your own needs, not her control. The prison door opens when you understand that you've been both the prisoner and the guard all along. True masculine strength isn't about dominating others or never needing anyone. It's about being psychologically complete enough that you can connect without merging, love without depending, and receive care without reverting to childhood. It's about carrying your own great mother within so you can meet women as equals rather than as saviors. The woman who activated your great mother complex isn't your enemy, she's your teacher. She showed you where you still need to grow, where you're still seeking external salvation for internal needs. The pain of this relationship is the pain of being called to finally mature beyond your psychological childhood. You have a choice: remain her satellite, forever orbiting her moods, forever dependent on her nurturing, forever vulnerable to her devouring, or step into your own center of gravity, become your own source of emotional nourishment, and discover what it means to love as a psychologically adult man. The little boy inside you will resist this transformation. He'll scream that it's not fair, that he deserves to be taken care of, that finding the right woman will solve everything. But the man you're meant to be knows better. He knows that true power comes from self-possession, not from being possessed. He knows that real love happens between adults, not between a symbolic mother and her eternal child. Break the spell, reclaim your center, stop seeking the great mother, and start embodying the great father, to yourself first, and then to the world. Your freedom awaits on the other side of this archetypal imprisonment. The only question is, are you ready to grow up? Or will you remain a powerful man playing a powerless child, forever seeking a mother in women who deserve a partner? The archetype only enslaves those who refuse to evolve. Which will you choose?